FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
Brian Gruber with FORA.tv, here with Mickey Kaus of Slate. You guys pioneered a lot of internet coverage of news events like this. How will this convention be different from years past when you try to cover the events?
Well, at the moment, this convention has been entirely driven by rumors on the internet written by people who were nowhere near St. Paul, Minnesota. So the hot topic yesterday was, did Sarah Palin fake her pregnancy? Because it gets incredibly complicated, but it's all everybody, and it turned out not to be true, I think. But everybody was talking about it, and it had nothing to do with anybody who was here. Now, in part, that's because it's this weird convention where the politicians haven't showed up yet because they're all off pretending to be doing good for Louisiana and Mississippi. And maybe that'll change when the politicians are here generating news. But right now, it's a very weird convention, which has been, the news has been generated by people who aren't here, who are just on the internet.
So what do you do at a convention? How do you get your news sources? Your coverage on Slate is probably one of the most comprehensive aggregations of blog content that's out there. When you're physically at an event like this, how is it different in the way you collect all that information?
There are two ways to do it. One, you can run into people in the halls and at parties, and you find out a lot that way. The second thing is you can seek the shelter of a large, powerful organization with more journalistic pull than you have, and you can tag along to their events. I did that with Newsweek in 1988. I sort of always done that. Slate, for the organization I work for, is under the wing of the Washington Post, so I get to go to some of their events too and work in their workspace. Very nice of them, very useful thing to have. I defend reporters going to conventions, not because there's any news here. Everybody says, why do you go? There's no news here. They're right, there's no news here. But you still learn a whole lot from a whole lot of people you wouldn't ordinarily meet that you then use for the next 2 years or the next 4 years. So it's like going to school. It's an educational experience. Doesn't necessarily show up in anything you write this week or next week.
Is race going to decide this election?
I don't think so, but I think race is going to. I don't disagree with the conventional wisdom. Race is going to cost Obama quite a few percentage points in terms of the difference between the polls and what the actual vote is election day. On the other hand, a whole lot of people are going to vote for Obama because, rightly, I hope, they think he will help put the race issue behind us. And so, arguably, that's a huge central part of his appeal. And if he wins, which I think he will, that'll be because of race, but that doesn't mean race isn't a factor. It means race is a complicated, countervailing factor.
And if he wins, what will be the issues that drive people to vote for him on Election Day, do you think?
Well, look, I mean, the Democrats should win. The economy's not in good shape, not in horrible shape, it's not in good shape. We've had a war that probably should never have been fought and was badly managed for years and years and years. And according to what Joe Klein said here today, the outcome will not be as happy as we currently seem to think it will be. The Republicans basically haven't had any big issue that the country was eager for once they passed welfare reform in '96, which is a big achievement. Wasn't all that much, people here discuss, well, did they just implode? No, they succeeded. And parties that succeed, that have nothing to do, and then they lose power. That's sort of what happened to the Republicans. It's time for the outs to come in and correct some of the problems that the ins have caused. And Bush has been a particularly dunderheaded president in that respect.
So I'm familiar with your print work, but I've also seen you online at Blogging Heads TV. Can you talk about what Blogging Heads coverage of the conventions might be about, or your experience with Blogging Heads?
Well, Blogging Heads is sort of one of the solvents to the problem that they were talking about here, which is people off in their own cocoons who never talk to each other and have their own facts. I think that problem is exaggerated for blogs because blogs do talk to each other and do attack each other, but at Blogging Heads we bring them actually into the same conversation and have them argue directly with each other on television, and the result is sometimes you get closer to the truth that way and you get a common set of facts. The other thing we have is we have one show, Glenn Lowry and John McWhorter, where it's two black intellectuals who are sort of all over the lot and have been over the lot, but really smart guys who think for themselves. And they're having a conversation that you're really not going to hear anywhere else on TV, and where they can just be totally honest with each other, and use the N-word and laugh about it, and in ways that you could never. You got a perspective you will not get anywhere else. So those are the two things that I think are useful in what you're doing and what we're doing. I do think that blogs are not the horrible problem that was outlined here today in terms of not talking to each other. The classic example, just ripped from the day's headlines, the Sarah Palin fake pregnancy rumor was brought up by the vicious partisans at Daily Kos and was knocked down by the vicious partisans at Daily Kos, who found some evidence against their thesis on a right-wing website. So not only are they criticizing themselves, but they're also visiting a right-wing website for information. So it's just not as bad as people here let on.
Enjoy the convention. Mickey Kaus of Slate and a frequent contributor to Blogging Ahead's TV.
Thanks very much.